In this video, we're going to work with expressing percentages. So the first question, express 4/5 as a percentage. Hopefully by now you know that we love it when our denominators are 10, 100 or 1000. In this case, 5 can turn into 100 very easily by just multiplying by 20. So we do that and we get 80/100, which can be expressed as 80%. Question 2, express 3/25 as a percentage. Now, the denominator 25 happens to be one of those nice factors of 100. Why? Because 25 times 4 gets us 100. So we do that for both the top and the bottom, obtaining 12/100. And therefore, this can be expressed very conveniently as 12%. Question 3, express 5/8 as a percentage. Now, with the denominator of 8, we have to multiply by 125 to obtain a denominator of 1000. Now, with 1000, we can get to 100 easily by dividing by 10. So we have to do that for the top as well, which means we are going to move the decimal point one step to the left, obtaining 62.5 for the numerator and 100 for the denominator. Now that the denominator is 100, we can now say it's 62.5%. Express 6% as a decimal. Well, 6% is written as 6/100. Now, the answer is 0.06 from here. One way to do it is to imagine yourself going from here, divide by 100, we'll jump 2 spaces to the left, 1, 2. Express 45% as a fraction in its simplest form. So the first thing we do is to write 45% as 45/100. So those of you who are quick with this, it's 0.45. Another way to think about this is dividing by 100 means we could take the decimal point and we move it 2 spaces to the left to make the number smaller. Dividing by 100 makes the number smaller, yeah? So move by 2 spaces when you see 2 zeros. So the answer is 0.45. 6/20 as a percentage. Now 20 is one of those really nice numbers that gets us to 100 easily. So we're going to multiply by 5, top and bottom, giving us 30/100, which means the answer is 30%. 15% as a decimal. Let's write 15% as 15/100, and then the answer is 0.15. Another way to do this is to think of 15 here with the decimal point, dividing by 100. Let's move it 2 steps to the left, giving us 0.15. 9/50 expressed as a percentage. The first thing we do is to write 9/50. Now 50 gets us to 100 really easily. Just multiply by 2. We get 18/100. Therefore, the answer is 18%. Express 1/20 as a percentage. 1/20, another nice number. Get times 5 times 5, and we get to 100. The same for the numerator, and we get 5/100, which is basically 5%. 13/25 as a percentage. 25 is a nice factor of 100, so let's multiply by 4, and then the top multiplied by 4 gets us 52/100, which means 52% is the answer. Express 0.31 as a percentage. Well, basically 0.31 as a decimal is 31/100, and with a nice 100 for my denominator, we can say that is 31%. 633/1000 as a percentage. Well, we want our denominators to be 100. So from 1000, let's divide by 10. We get 63.3/100. So dividing by 10 means we'll just move the decimal point from here 1 step to the left, giving us 63.3. Now just take this numerator and write that as a percentage, 63.3%. 0.065 as a percentage. Well, given that as a decimal, let's write it as a fraction first. So 0.065, well, I see 3 decimal places, 1, 2, 3, which means it's 65/1000. 3 decimal places, 3 zeros. Now, we would like our denominator to be 100, which means we'll divide by 10, divide by 10. And dividing by 10 at the top means jumping the decimal point 1 step to the left, giving us 6.5/100, which means we can write that as, take whatever this number is, 6.5, and write it as 6.5%. 0.07 as a percentage. Decimal, let's write it as a fraction first, which is, let's see, that we've got 2 decimal places here, which means 7/100. 2 zeros. 2 decimal places, 2 zeros. With that, we can immediately express that as 7%. 72% as a decimal. Well, as a fraction, it is 72/100. As a decimal, let's move it 2 steps to the left, or just simply write it with 2 decimal places here, right? Jump at 0.72. And now things get a bit more interesting. We've got a decimal and a percentage written as a fraction. Okay, how about we just take this number here, 0.02. Whatever the question gives you, write it out of 100, like so. 0.02, write it, and then percentage, write it as out of 100. Okay, now we do not at this moment like the fact that we've got a decimal up here as a numerator, right? So I'm gonna turn it into a nice number, 2. And how do we do that? We move the decimal place 2 stops to the right. And that means multiplying by 100. So we will get 2 for the numerator. Now for the denominator, we have 100 times 100, which means we have a total of 4 zeros here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's turn this into the simplest form, shall we? Which means we are going to divide by 2, which means the answer is 1 over 5,000. So there you go. What is 0.003 as a percentage? Well, let's take that decimal and write it as a fraction, 3 over 1,000. Why? Because we've got 3 decimal places, which means we have 3 zeros here. Well, we want our denominator to be 100, so let's divide by 10, top and bottom, giving us 0.3 out of 100. So let's take whatever this number is, 0.3, and write it as a percentage, 0.3%. Well, you're used to seeing fractions and decimals written as percentages. Now, what about 5 as a whole number? Well, don't be nervous about it. Just write 5 and know that 5, a whole number, can be written as 5 over 1. Now, we have a denominator of 1. And with percentages, we love it when our denominators are 100. So let's do exactly that. We're going to multiply by 100 top and bottom, giving us 500 over 100. The moment we have this as the denominator, we can write 500% easily. Now, do not be put off by the fact that you see more than 100% as the answer. This doesn't mean that it's wrong. Well, there is such a thing as 500%. A simple example being, let's say A has this block right here, 100% of A. And B is 5 times. What does that mean? That means B has 5 times of whatever A has. So that's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units compared to A's 1 unit. So basically, B is 500% of A. That's what this means, 500%. So absolutely don't be put off by numbers larger than 100%. Okay, what is 2 as a percentage? Well, first let's write 2. And we can write 2 as 2 over 1. And we're going to multiply by 100, top and bottom, to obtain a denominator of 100. Now that we have 200 over 100, we can say the answer is 200%. What is 100 as a percentage? The same thing we've been doing for the past few questions. We'll take 100, write it as 100 over 1, multiply by 100 top and bottom, which means we have 1 and 4 zeros up at the top. That's 10,000. Well, that's 10,000% right there. Express 101% as a decimal, so we've got percentage, so 101%, write it as 101 over 100. Dividing by 100 means move the decimal point 2 spaces to the left, giving us, boom, boom, 1.01. 9 over 12 as a percentage. Well, the first thing I noticed here is that it's not in the simplest form. You can divide both by 3, giving us 3/4. And what is nice about the 4 as a denominator, we can multiply by 25 to get us to 100, which means 75 over 100, which basically means 75%. 21 over 30 as a percentage. Well, our denominator right now is not the best. We've got 30, that's not nice. But we know both of these are multiples of 3. So let's divide by 3 to get us 7 over 10. Now, 7 over 10 with 10 as at the bottom, we can multiply by 10 to get us 70 over 100, which basically means 70% is the answer. Express 6 over 20 as a percentage. That's a nice factor of 120 right there. So let's times 5 and get us with 100 at the bottom, which means 30 over 100, which means 30% is the answer. 12 over 32 as a percentage. Well, we definitely don't want 32 as our denominator. Well, we can divide by 4, thankfully, top and bottom, giving us something much better, 3 over 8. And with 8, we can multiply by 125, giving us 375 over 1,000. But as a percentage, we want our denominator to be 100, so let's divide by 10, giving us 37.5 over 100, which is 37.5%. And now, level 2 questions. We've got 1 whole and 1/5, okay? So 1 whole and 1/5, let's write that as an improper fraction, with a denominator of 5, let's multiply by 20 and 20, giving us 120 over 100. Now this is a lot more familiar. Just take whatever number it is up here and write it as a percentage, 120%. 4.05 as a percentage. Well, let's have it as a fraction first, shall we? That's 405 over 100. Hey, what do you know? That's a nice 100 down there, which means 405% is the answer. 1.005 as a percentage is written as 1005 over 1000. Now with 1000 down there, we don't like it. Let's divide by 10 for both top and bottom, giving us 100.5 over 100, which means the answer is that as a percent. Write 2.5 as a percentage. Well, the first thing you do is to write 2.5 over 1, and since we want the denominators to be 100, we multiply 100 top and bottom, we get 250, and we end up with 250%. 3 wholes and 3 over 8 as a percentage. So leave 3 wholes alone, and we know with the denominator 8, we can turn it to 1000, multiply by 125 top and bottom. From here, that is 3 wholes with a denominator of 1000, that's 3000, so that's 3375 for the numerator. And with this, I want a denominator with 100, so I'll divide by 10, giving me 337.5 for the numerator. So from here, we can write this as the percentage, 337.5%. 7 over 2, an improper fraction, as a percentage. Well, with 2 as the denominator, we can turn it to 100 really easily. Just multiply by 50. We get 350 for the numerator. The answer is 350%. 0.05%. Now, for me, I take whatever number given is. In this case, it's 0.05. Write it down as out of 100. So percentage, write it as out of 100. And as a fraction, I don't want my numerator to be an ugly decimal, so I'm going to multiply by 100 to turn it into 5. Okay, I get 5 out of 10,000. To turn it into the simplest form, I'll just divide by 5, both sides, top and bottom. So looking at 10 here, 10 divided by 5 is 2. So it's 2,000, 1 over 2,000. 2.001 as a percentage. Well, first I'll write it as a fraction. Take whatever number is given to me and write it as out of 1. Next, with 1 as the denom, I want to turn it into 100. So multiply by 100, top and bottom. Okay, jump your decimal point 2 steps to the right, and you get 200.1%. 75 over 500 as a percentage. Well, I can divide by 5 top and bottom, giving me 15 over 100, and this is nice. This is written as 15%. Now we have 400 as the denominator. Well, we know what to do. We can divide by 4 top and bottom, and that will give us 8.75. You can use long division to get the numerator. And from here, just write this as the percentage, 8.75%. Here again, we have 400 as the denominator. So we'll write this down and divide by 4 top and bottom. That will give us 60 over 100, which is 60%. Which of the following has the biggest value? Well, the clearest one the one that's clearest is 32%, choice number 3. Okay, next up, 0.22. Is that not 20%? Sorry, 22%. Okay, so so far choice number 3 is the largest. 1 over 5, that's easy. That is 20%. So currently it is still choice number 3 being the largest in value. Finally, let's deal with option number 1, which is 2 divided by 77 basically. We can use long division, so 2 divided by 77. How many 77s in 2? Well, that's none. I'll put decimal point there at this point. And a 0, how many 77s in 20? Well, none. There are no 77s in 20. Let's put a 0 there. Well, the moment I see this, I already know that this fraction here is nowhere close to 32%. It cannot be larger than 32% because 32% is basically 0.32. The moment this is a 0, I know therefore that choice number 3 is going to be the largest. One way to do this question is to turn each of these choices into 0.25% if possible. The other way around is to convert this percentage into a fraction to see which one it matches. So I will do exactly that. So take 0.25%, write it as 0.25 over 100, get rid of that numerator 0.25, just multiply by 100, and you will get 25 over 10,000. Well, let's turn it into numerator 1, divide by 25, that's 1 over 400. Well, that happens to be choice number 3. 207% as the decimal. So write 207 out of 100 and move the decimal point 2 spaces to the left, 1, 2, and you get 2.07 as a decimal. 0.418 as a percentage. Well, with that decimal, convert it to a fraction, 418 over 1,000, and then realize that we can turn into percentage by having 100 for the denominator. And how do we do that? We divide by 10, top and bottom. So that's 41.8 over 100, that's 41.8%. Which of the following does not have the same value as 25%? So I'm expecting 3 of them being 25% and 1 answer that is odd one out. That is the odd one out. Okay, so let's zoom in. 25% is 0.25, 25%? Yeah, you betcha, 25 out of 100. That is 25% indeed. 1/4, yep, when we multiply top and bottom by 25, we get 100 here, 25 here, that is 25%. Well, 25 over 100 is definitely 25%, and the whole number 25 is not. Therefore, the answer is number 4. Which of the following is incorrect? Let's start with option number 1, shall we? 0.3. Let's write that as 3 over 10, which is true. 3 over 10 happens to be 30%. It is not 3%, so A, number 1 is wrong. Okay, level 3. Which of the following is closest to 1 whole? Which, by the way, is 100%. So with these 4 decimals, let's convert them to percentages so we can have a clearer picture. With 0.006, there are 3 decimal places here, which means I can write that as 6 over 1,000, which brings me to 0.6%. Now that's really far away from 100%. That is 99.4% away. Okay, closest though. So we want the difference to be as small as possible. Next. 3 decimal places again, let's have 12 over 1,000. That's basically 1.2%. Well, it's closer, but still pretty far away, 98.8% away from 100%. 0.5 is basically half, which is 50%. Now, this is a lot closer than the first 2. That's 50% away. 1.1 is basically 110%, which happens to be more than 100%, but just 10% away from 100%. In other words, this is the closest. It has the smallest difference to 100%. Answer is number 4. Express the difference between this fraction and this fraction as a percentage. Well, what I want to do is to convert this into a percentage, which is 75%. 2/5 as a percentage is 40%. So this is the larger number here. So they want the difference. So I'm going to take 75 minus 40, giving me 35% as the answer. So take the difference between these 2 fractions written as a percentage. So first thing is to write 11/25, which turns out to be 44%. 9/20, that's 45%. The difference as a percentage is therefore 1%. And congrats, you have come to the end of express percentages.